Hi everybody!
Hi Dad!
Welcome to our channel. My name is Sam.
I'm Ryan.
And this is the Sam and Ryan channel. This is another episode of Versus. Today we're going to be doing an optimist versus a realist. If you're new here, welcome. Happy to have you here. In Versus, it's pretty simple. We have two people from different viewpoints, different life experiences. They come together, answer the same questions in the center, and a great conversation follows.
About a month ago, we sourced the daddy community for some interesting topics for Versus, and one that y'all came up with was an optimist versus a realist. Sam has a very sort of optimistic, sunny disposition, and I have a very realistic, logical disposition. And we thought it would be kind of interesting to have a conversation about that, as was requested from one of you. So thank you for that. You know, follow along at home. If you're an optimist or you're a realist, you know, put yourself in one of our shoes and
leave your answers in the comments down below.
Nice engagement, very important.
All right, let's get into it.
Sure, you want to go first?
Sure, why not? How do you think optimists and realists interact? This is fitting considering I'm an optimist, you're a realist, and we do interact. We are in a relationship with one another.
Right, and we wanted to be like more global with these questions too, in the ways that like this conversation can be more widely applicable. So, you know, it's not so much like how do we as optimists and realists interact, but like sort of how they do in general, I guess. I don't know, what do you think?
It's interesting to think about how optimists and realists interact, because like those aren't the kind of classic opposite ends of the spectrum. You know, most people think optimists versus like pessimists, because those tend to be kind of the two extremes. But in my experience as an optimist, I think to optimists, realism can often feel like pessimism. And so being completely honest with myself, like there have been times where, you know, a realist will introduce logic to a situation and it lightly offends me or upsets me because I want to live in, you know, my optimistic point of view or opinion on something.
A realist introduced logic and offended you? Are you just reading me right now?
No.
Like, was it me? Like,
no. I mean, remember, we're speaking globally.
Yes, nice.
Globally. That's how I think optimists and realists interact, kind of on like the optimist standpoint. Like sometimes optimists get offended by realism.
I think that the misperception from optimists about realists is that realists are pessimists. And I think that the misperception about optimists from realists is that optimists are stupid.
Yeah.
You know, like just like...
That like there's no logic involved.
No reality. The opposite is optimist pessimist. And so I'm actually in the middle, but it sort of already kind of feels like I'm on that like end of the spectrum, and that's how I feel. If it's sort of me and a bunch of optimists, it's sort of like me versus them, you know, which is apropos due to the game that we're playing right now here on YouTube. But I've been in a lot of situations with optimists where me introducing not even a negative point of view, but just and not even like a realistic point of view, just like another perspective. I feel like realists see a lot of different perspectives, and optimists are prone to just see sort of the best case scenario, and I actually think that's a beautiful thing. But you know, then the realist introduces something a little bit more balanced, and suddenly we're like combative forces, rather than just like a supplemental force.
Sure.
It is very interesting to introduce a little bit of reality into sort of like an optimist's dream session, because you feel like you're crushing the dreams.
You feel like the bad guy.
Yes, I feel like the bad guy all the time.
Sure.
Like especially, and we're not going to do this, don't worry, but like talking about politics. Being a realist in a political discussion versus like an optimist in a political discussion, it's always like, what the heck, man? Like,
well, yeah, because
why can't we just dream that like all these bills are going to get passed, or like, you know, justice for everyone? And it's sort of like, no, I want that too. I just don't think that is going to happen as fast as you want, and then suddenly I'm the bad guy.
Sure.
In the same way that you said you like get a little offended, like sometimes I'm sort of like, like I'm not the bad guy here.
Yeah.
But when I can put that aside, that relationship is very comedic to me sometimes. Mm-hmm. Question number 2, here we go. What are the benefits of being an optimist or a realist? I feel like being a realist has benefited my life a lot, which I think is why I'm a realist. But yeah. One of my life mottos is expect the best, prepare for the worst. I expect for the most optimistic case scenario to take place. I am prepared for the most pessimistic scenario to take place, and therefore I kind of live balanced in the middle between the two things, and whatever happens, happens. I see, obviously, the merits in viewing everything sort of through rose-colored glasses and seeing everything for the best of it. What I think I bring to the table is a very balanced view at things. Of course, I'm highly imperfect and I get it wrong a lot, but I strive to be very balanced with my relationships, with the decisions that I make, whatever, and yeah, I do. I feel like my life has really benefited as a consequence, because I'm not really in either camp. It's not like I'm incredibly pessimistic, but I'm not, in my opinion, unrealistically positive either.
I think for me, the benefits of being an optimist are a little bit stereotypical and kind of obvious, because I think with a lot of optimists, you tend to hear about their optimism or kind of see their optimism. And so it's not that hard to put together what the benefits are. It's a great thing, or at least I feel, to have my default perspective on a lot of things be the best case scenario. And I love my ability to try to see the silver lining. That's one of my favorite benefits of being an optimist, is feeling like I can not only rally myself but others if I'm in a bad situation, or just a bad day, or we run into traffic, or something's not going well or not going as planned. I like being the optimist who takes on kind of the task of rallying and putting the best case scenario out there to try and make it happen.
Yeah, I love that perspective. Not just what an optimist is like in general or in optimistic situations, but how being an optimist is an asset in negative situations. That's interesting.
Next question. This feels like a big one. I don't know if the paper's just cut really big or if it's actually really big. Let's see. Where do you think your worldview comes from?
I cut the piece of paper poorly, I guess. Way too much room.
The piece of paper was just really big.
Really misleading. Sorry about that.
I honestly ask myself this question a lot because, growing up, I had a great childhood at times, but everybody goes through tumultuous seasons, and there's a lot of stuff I went through as a child or witnessed as a child that wasn't great. And I think I've realized that my optimism is what got me through all of that. And I think that's where it comes from. Maybe realizing I wasn't in a great situation at one time and just deciding this is how I'm going to get through it. I'm going to think about the best case scenario. I'm going to try and find the best case scenario. And that's going to carry me through this season of life. And that really worked for me and has continued to work for me. So I think that that's really just what I've adopted as my worldview in life.
I know so many people who have gone through so much and came out the other side very positive. And most of the people who I know who are really negative haven't been through.
Yeah.
It is that is very much reductive, oversimplified,
Sure.
and generalized. But I do kind of find that funny.
Yeah.
I've tried life both ways. I've been almost sociopathically optimistic. You know what I mean? I read all the self-help books about manifestation and just if you think positive things will happen
Sure.
to you. And so I just ignored all the bad and was only positive about everything. And I was blind to the realities of things, especially the way that people were treating me. I would always see the best in people. And sometimes there is bad things to see in people too.
That's true.
But then on the other side of the coin, I'm a person with depression who goes through my feels, and so I've been very pessimistic, and obviously that's not sustainable and doesn't work either, but I do feel that slowly throughout a lot of life experience I've sort of met in the middle, that being, for me, extremely optimistic about everything or extremely pessimistic about everything. Neither of those worked. And so eventually I just kind of landed in the middle. So I don't know how much of it was a nurture thing or how much of it was a nature thing. But this is where I've landed, and I'm sticking to it. Darn it.
Yeah. Your turn.
Great. What are the downsides of being an optimist or a realist? Yeah, so I just mentioned this in the other question, but what got me through my early 20s was all of those, self-help books about manifesting, and if you have positive energy about everything, like positivity will come into your life, and like if you just believe it, it'll happen. And I really believed that for a long time, and now it's not that I don't believe it, I just struggle with it, because I'm kind of like, if that's true, it's literally magic. But it also, there's a weird counterweight to it, because I have manifested and believed in things so strongly that didn't happen. And then when they didn't, according to the laws of manifestation, it's because I didn't want it enough. It's because I allowed doubt in. And so there's sort of a weird counterweight to it where if you believe in that and then things don't go your way, it's kind of your fault. But, sometimes I get a little sad boy when I'm being sort of overly logical about everything, and I'm kind of like, but I'm not really leaving any room for magic, because the fact of the matter is being realistic and foreseeing all of the different possibilities and understanding how the bad things might happen. Then if they do, the fact that you've thought through it doesn't prepare you for that pain. It still hurts anyway. It doesn't leave you a lot of room for that magic of manifestation. Whether or not that's real, none of us will ever know, but I still teeter-totter about how real that actually is. How about you?
I think the biggest downside to being an optimist is that as soon as you are identified as an optimist, or you identify as an optimist, that's what everybody expects from you. So that is where the bar is set. You are the optimist, or you are the optimistic friend. Because like I said earlier, optimism tends to manifest externally a lot. I feel like you can...
It's very infectious. You can see
very
right
infection.
away. Yeah.
You can kind of see who the optimist is in a friend group. And so the downside to that is, no one is happy all the time. Yes, I'm an optimist. Optimists can still be sad and going through crap,
right.
And don't always have the best case scenario pictured in their plan at every moment. Sometimes it takes me a second to get there. So the bummer is just that as soon as I am I'm an optimist, that's what everybody expects from me all the time.
I've witnessed that.
Yeah.
Towards you and for you, and that as a realist, I always find that unbelievably stupid.
It's taxing.
Yeah, because it's just guys, be realistic. She's a human being.
Funny.
Thanks.
My turn?
Last one, here we go.
Last question. It's a big paper. What's it gonna be?
Does the text fit the...
Kind of.
Okay, I did better that time.
It's better.
Good.
Your space work is better here.
I cut the paper.
Has your perspective ever steered you in the wrong direction? Yes. My optimism has definitely steered me in the wrong direction. Not necessarily in any big leap of faith moments, but with people. I think there have definitely been a few people in my life who I've really tried to see the best in, even when they've proved that wrong sometimes a number of times. And it's interesting because in all of those, relationships with those people, I was never the first to leave. There was always some sort of catalyst, and I still was well, maybe we can work this out. Maybe it was just a lapse of judgment on their end. I was still trying to see the best in them. In all of the cases I'm thinking of, the optimist in me, was never the first to leave, just because I still wanted to see the best. Maybe there was still something there, to that friendship that could be mended. So I just think, yeah, my optimism has steered me in the wrong direction sometimes with people who I've given second, third, fourth, fifth chances to that I really should have not.
Yeah, and I imagine that's so hard because on one side of the coin, that makes you an amazing friend.
Yeah.
And an amazing, person to be in a relationship with, but then on the other side, it makes you easy to be taken advantage of, and people who mean to take advantage of you probably see that immediately.
And do.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. Good thing that I have like relationship insurance. Like I can just keep messing up and keep messing up, and you'll just
always
never
see
break
the
up
best.
with me.
I'll never leave.
Yeah, you know, on my side of things, I mean, I'm sure there are many examples. Broad concept, being a realist is so, it's even just a funny term because like, no one knows what's gonna happen.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, oh, well, I'm being realistic. It's like, you don't know. You're not a seer. Like, you don't know what's going to happen in the future. But I think that realists sort of think that they do. It's like, well, I've considered all options. Yeah, except the one option that you haven't considered, which is going to happen. The first thing that came to mind with that question was with my art. And when we were discussing the answer to this question, I said, my realism holds me back with my art. And Sam thought I said heart and got very sad for me. That's an art with an A. I also think that maybe I'm like a little boring in like meetings. You know, like if we're like brainstorming, big picture, like throw anything at the wall, like let anything stick. It doesn't matter, no wrong ideas. And I'm over here being like, yes, but these are the parameters and these are the only 5 things that actually, and everyone's like, Ryan, shut up. Like this is not what we're doing here.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like sometimes I get a little too bogged down in the logic and the details and the, you know, so yeah, that's the first thing that came to mind. I should actually probably send some people some emails. Just be like, sorry about the way that I am.
Oh no.
Nah, I'm perfect the way I am.
Fine.
Yeah, I'm great.
Yeah. Look at that, folks. We have an empty bowl, which means we've reached the end of this episode of Versus.
Episode?
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, you know.
I mean, like, yeah, that's what they are, but I don't know. That makes us feel like
professional.
Yeah, like we're like TV producers over here.
Look at us.
Hey, Netflix, you want to pick up the 13-episode season of Versus?
Of Versus?
Netflix, give us free stuff.
As always, we love to hear your thoughts and ideas down in the comments, so please share. As always, be sure to like and subscribe. YouTube. And we will see you all in a future video. Bye.
Bye, Dad. It's kind of bad.
I liked it.
I'll workshop it. You don't know what key it was in. It was a cappella. It was great. You liking this bonus content? Hi, everyone. We're actually going to do another video. You know, all those people who clicked out,
all those people who
we're
left,
just going to keep
that
going.
That was a fake outro.
Versus pink hair versus brown hair. Sam, what do you think? No, we're leaving. It's over. Okay, the video's actually over. Bye, everyone. Still here? You like?
No. Bye.